Hey all, Chris from Mystery Cleaning, Clean Woods of the Foul Coast. As usual, a massive thank you to those who have subscribed to the channel. It blows my mind that there are 330 plus people who are prepared to endure me waxing lyrical about all things being self-employed. But here we are. So I wanted to do a quick video today about banking for the self-employed, the new self-employed business owner. Okay, so there is a bit of confusion around the situation with a business bank account. Okay, now there is no law written anywhere that says you as a business owner have to have a dedicated business bank account. It's simply not the case. As a sole trader, new business owner, which most people tend to become sole traders, you can open a personal account and have your fees paid into that account. Now, I'm not going to sit, to lie. The high street banks, generally speaking, frown on this. Okay, and it's against a number of the terms and conditions. And I'd love to be able to sit here and tell you that it's for your benefit. It's because they want to put an arm around business owners, etc., and protect your interests. But the sad fact is, and reality is that they want you to have a business bank account because they can charge you more for it. It's as cut and dry as that. With a personal bank account, generally speaking, there are no fees unless there are any additional charges, etc., for things like overdraft or other bits and pieces as add-ons. Generally speaking, it doesn't actually cost you anything to use a personal bank account. And the banks make lots and lots of money on business bank accounts, which is why they want people to take them up. But yeah, when I very first started, let's journey back. When I very first started, it was Chris in a bucket, and ultimately I opened up a second personal account for all of my window cleaning fees to land into that. And I decided that I was going to keep it separate from my bills and from my personal expenditure. I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't really know anything about sort of self-assessment. I knew that self-assessment was something I had to do, paying tax and all that sort of stuff. I knew it was something I had to do, but I was absolutely clueless as to the actual routine of it. Okay, so the problem is if you have a personal bank account from which you pay things like your rent, your council tax, your household bills, your food shopping, etc., vet bills and all that sort of stuff, then when it comes to money coming in and going out of your account, you have to also take into account your personal expenditure, which will mess your head up something chronic when it comes to doing your self-assessment for the first time. I will leave a link in the description to Julie Hutson at Cassian, who is my accountant. I've known her many years. Rest assured, I do not get any fees, etc., or sort of a golden handshake for getting people to sign up to Julie. I know her, I like her, I trust her. Okay, and I will only recommend things that I know, like, and trust. It's as simple as that. But I would honestly recommend that you take on the services of an accountant for your peace of mind. Okay, so having a separate bank account opened, I then decided to put all my fees, etc., into there. And then when it came to doing self-assessment, I could literally look down the list of money coming in versus money going out, and it was a lot easier to pick through. It was a lot easier to separate and sort of go through self-assessment, etc. Okay, for advice on self-assessment, I am not going to touch on any of that. Ultimately, it'd be remiss of me to give any advice to you guys about self-assessment, for the simple fact that I don't know that much about it. I have Julie that does my Julie does my self-assessment, as well as my books, as well as my profit and loss schedule, etc. For those of you who are uninitiated, I've probably just spoken Welsh for the last 2 minutes, but that's completely fine. Seek out Julie or another accredited accountant and let them talk you through the process, etc. Okay, now back to the subject at hand, which is the business bank account. So for the last, up until recently, actually, up until about 2 weeks ago, I've been trading from a personal bank account. Now, the banks do, as I've mentioned, frown on this, and I've decided to get a business bank account for a couple of reasons. One, it is more professional to have on your invoice your company name, which you're not going to get from a personal bank account. You're just not. So it's a matter of professionalism when it comes to dealing with particularly commercial customers. Okay, and another reason why is ultimately because there are certain facilities open to you, like a larger overdraft, a credit facility, etc., to borrow money if you need to invest in new equipment, etc., or new vehicles and all that sort of stuff. Then you can. It's a lot easier to get those things through a business bank account than it is, or business bank, than it is through your high street bank. Now, the problem with a business bank account from the high street is that the fees can be extortionate. Okay, so case in point, me and the wife, we actually sat down and worked out that if I brought in £6,000 worth of window cleaning fees or service fees, whatever you want to call them, and it was to pass through that bank account, then what would happen is that I would ultimately incur a charge of around about £174 to £180 per month, which is absolutely extortionate. I'd rather have that £180 odd in my back pocket. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The high street banks will charge. One of the high street banks that we saw, would charge around sort of £170 odd a month for the amount of money that would pass through my business bank account. So for that very reason, I've decided to go with an online bank. The name on the account is obviously Estuary Cleaning, etc. And from the fees for an online bank, in my humble opinion, are a lot lower. Now, are you going to be able to have the same benefits, etc., from an online bank to a high street bank? Not likely, from what I've seen. I'm not going to disclose who I've gone with, but ultimately the charges are ultimately 60 odd, it's about £69 a year, and then there are no monthly charges, there are no additional fees, etc. £69 a year, thank you very much, that's you done, versus £170 a month. The math, do the maths, peeps. It's not going to happen, is it? So all I would say is when it comes to seeking out your business bank account, do your research. The devil is in the detail. The things I will be looking for would be a schedule of costs. I would look at things like how much are they going to charge me per transaction, how much are they going to charge me per check, how much are they going to charge me to remove cash from that account, stuff like that. These things, are critical in avoiding an absolute cluster when it comes, because the last thing you want to do is to open this business bank account, which is free for the first 18 months. But then obviously as your business grows, etc., they want more and more and more fees, etc. So obviously something just be aware of. But yeah, I hear many people sort of saying, oh, well, I need a business bank account and I can't pay X amount per month for it and all this sort of stuff, in the early days as well. So you can use a personal bank account from the high street, as long as they are not made 100% aware of the nature of your income, etc. If they find out that you are self-employed, you will probably get a cease and desist letter, and that will then initiate effectively them not necessarily freezing your account, but ultimately saying, look, naughty, we want you to have a business bank account. So just something to be aware of is all I would say. I'm not here to try and scare people, but ultimately, try and do things by the book where possible. I do strongly recommend looking at some of these online providers for banking. The fees are low. There's a limit on how much money you can have in your bank account in one time, which is £50,000. Well, I've never had £50,000 in my bank account, so I think I'm covered for now. Yeah, just obviously do your research, do your due diligence, and yeah, don't get robbed from fees, etc. So I hope everyone enjoyed the video, and please consider subscribing, and I shall see you all in the next video. Take care, peeps. All the very best.